All right. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Um, Welcome to the Broken for This channel. I'm David Collins. This is the channel where we talk about some of the most difficult circumstances in our life and how they have shaped us, formed us, and made us more able to handle life's challenges. My hope is that in watching this, you'll be able to see how maybe taking the example that I use in being transparent about some of the things that I've experienced. Maybe it'll be from watching some of the guests that I have on from time to time who talk about their experiences. But my hope is that you don't come away just thinking that you are fatally flawed, that you are broken without a way to come through, but that you are specially equipped, that life has not just been chiseling away at you, but it's been preparing you for whatever it is that you have to do. And I really hope that you'll be able to find some purpose in whatever pain you've experienced and be able to help somebody else. So we do that in a couple of ways. I just alluded to it just a moment ago. I have some of my friends who come on. I'm working on that. I'm doing that here in the next couple of weeks. Thank you for your patience. If you follow me on Facebook or you know me, you know that my wife Ashley has had some major surgery and she's doing well and recovering from that. So, thank you for your patience. And just understand that I'm doing a little bit less here because I'm trying to make sure that she's taken care of. All right. So thank you for your prayers. And for those of you who reached out and expressed your love in all kinds of different ways, it means the world to us. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. But in addition to where's my computer acting funny? Give me just a second, y'all. My mic just did a thing. All right. And it's good again. Good. But in addition to having friends come on and having these kind of conversations, I also have been sharing my own journey, my own mental health journey and dealing with depression, anxiety, and then later in life, PTSD, and how that has kind of shaped me as a person, how it's helped me, how it's hurt me and how it's helped me. Yeah, because it's done both. And I want to be the model. I don't want to tell you one thing. Hey, Elijah, God bless you. Good to see you. Checking in from Zambia. Appreciate you being here. So I want to model that kind of transparency and healing through talking about difficult things. And one of the ways I do that is by sharing my own story. I've been working on in therapy, writing letters to helped me to deal with some of the difficult situations I've been in. A lot of it is dealt with my own absentee alcoholic father. So I've been working on a series of letters to him. He's not here anymore. He's not with us anymore. But there was still stuff that I've been trying to work through. So I got this series called Dear Dad. And what I've been doing, I think this is the sixth one. It is, yeah. I've been hoping, my desire is to not only for me to heal, but maybe that you can hear a helpful perspective, whether you've grown up in a similar situation, maybe you're a parent who's not in the lives of your child, or maybe you're just someone who loves someone who is feeling some kind of complex things or dealing with mental health challenges. I want to equip you to be able to have some conversations and learn from me. Not that I'm the model. I'd say it at church all the time, and I mean it. Don't study me, you won't graduate. But I mean, learn from my mistakes rather than your own. Make different mistakes, but don't make mine. Feel me? So I have this letter that I want to read. If you go to the Broken for This channel, especially on YouTube, Facebook has taken down videos a lot quicker these days. So while you can see this on Facebook, YouTube is where it'll be for years to come. So go ahead and check that out. But I've got our letter for today. It's called A Deathbed Conversation. The sixth episode in the Dear Dad series, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with you. I'll read the letter, and then I'll kind of give you my observations, some things that I'll come away with, because I don't feel the same way as I did when I wrote this letter a few years ago, and that's a good thing. But I do want to just kind of engage with you who's listening. If you have questions or comments, concerns, pushback, whatever, let's talk about it. But I'll go ahead and read through the letter from top to bottom. And then we'll jump right into it. Okay. All right, here it is. Dear Dad, during the fall of 1996, my friends and I went to the Georgia National Fair in Perry, Georgia together. We had the best time. We rode all the rides multiple times, and we ate as much fair food as we could afford. We went to the fair pretty much every year, but this one was more memorable because of what happened next. A couple days after my evening at the fair, I started feeling queasy and weak. I couldn't keep anything down, and my condition went from bad to worse very quickly. Mom made no apologies, as was her custom, and rushed me right to the emergency room. First, they thought that I was suffering from some kind of stomach bug or something, but nothing they could give me was helping my symptoms. Within a couple of days, my vital signs were starting to dip, and the medical team just couldn't figure out why. For some reason, my body wasn't accepting any fluids. Even with an IV in my arm, I was showing signs and symptoms of extreme dehydration. It was all the doctors could do to keep my vital signs stable, so they made the decision to admit me to the hospital. I endured a seemingly endless barrage of tests of every kind. Lord, I remember that. But they couldn't make heads or tails of my illness. All anyone knew was that I was in a free fall. After 2 or 3 days, everything started to blur together, at least for me. The dehydration was starting to impact the other systems of my body, and the doctors were concerned that my organs could begin to fail. No one wanted to say much to me about the prognosis, except that they were doing all they could and that I needed to be able to keep food down for them to feel comfortable. Whenever I tried to eat, though, I threw it all up within a few minutes. I was in and out of consciousness mostly, but sometimes I remember I pretended to be asleep so that I could overhear somebody talk about what was really going on with me. One evening, the attending physician walked into my room with a nurse, and I quickly shut my eyes. He praised the machines all around me and let out a loud, long sigh. I heard him say, "I don't know. I just don't know. Nothing we do is helping him. I don't know how long he'll be able to hang on like this. He hasn't eaten in days." They didn't know how long I was going to hold on. Those words rocked me to the core. I was close to dying. I was only 13. Teenagers didn't die like this, right? Not in a hospital. I prayed with renewed fervor for God to heal me, but day after day, I got worse. I remember glancing in the mirror one day on the way to the bathroom. I could scarcely recognize my reflection. I was pale and sickly looking. My eyes looked deep set in the sockets, and the area around them was a hard shade of gray. It was like I was wearing movie makeup. In the mirror, I saw my mortality. I was dying, and I looked like it. In an instant, it made sense that everyone was acting so strangely around me now. Mom was almost always with me at the hospital. When I looked at her, she forced a smile, but her bloodshot eyes gave away her worry. She was so sad, but she refused to leave me alone. When my body was racked with cramps, she held my hand and prayed through tears. She looked so helpless. Her son was fading away and there was nothing she could do about it. I wanted to comfort her, but, my condition was the cause of her agony. I remember asking Mom a few days in if she could give me a bath because I felt gross. Mom looked shocked. It's not surprising. Your teenage son not being ashamed and wanting his mom to bathe him. I remember her saying how sad that made her feel and how odd it was to be treating me like a child in that way. The sickness seemed to have robbed me of that last sense of pride and privacy that I had been holding on to. I had so many visitors during the hospitalization. Our pastor came by and prayed with us. Family and friends came by to sit with Mom. And even my classmates from school brought me a big card covered in signatures and well wishes. Even our bus driver came by and checked on me, Miss Maria. I started to notice the look of shock on people's faces when they saw me. I recognized that look, at least what it felt like. It's the same way I looked at myself in the mirror. I received dozens of phone calls from people who were too far away to come visit. People were so kind and encouraging, but I couldn't help wondering if I was talking to them for the last time. I cried until I didn't have any tears left and passed out over and over and over, more times than I could count. I didn't feel ready to die. I knew it would break Mom's heart. say nothing else, the rest of my family. Whenever mom wasn't there, someone from the family was there with me. One afternoon in particular, mom had gone home to rest a little. Grandma and Uncle Leon came to the hospital to take her place. It was so comforting to have them there with me. While they sat there praying and talking with me, the phone rang. Grandma answered it, and I turned towards her and listened, trying to figure out who was calling this time. Grandma's face didn't have the glint of recognition that it normally did. She looked serious and her jaw was clenched. I wasn't sure if I'd ever seen Grandma look like that. Who is calling? She told the caller that I wasn't doing well, but we were believing God for a miracle. Grandma held the receiver to her chest and looked at me silently for a few moments. She said, "It's your dad, David. Do you want to talk to him?" I didn't recognize Grandma's sudden absence of expression and monotone voice. I did recognize Grandma's sudden absence of expression and monotone voice. Her demeanor and tone were just like that day that Kim and I found the photos of Mom's mangled face and body 8 years before. The world swirled around me and the room fell silent as a tomb. I'd been in the hospital for nearly a week, fighting for my life, and I hadn't even thought about you, Dad. I didn't really want to speak to you, but it felt like every conversation I had could be the last one. I was glad Grandma and Uncle Leon were there at least, my superhero, my surrogate dad. There was ever a time when I felt like I could talk to you in this weakened state. This had to be it. I reluctantly nodded and reached for the receiver. As Grandma gave me the phone, she looked deep into my eyes with a look that told me, "I got your back if you said something crazy. You just have to know my grandma. You'd know that look." Your voice was markedly different this time than any other time we'd spoken. You were talking slowly and softly, and I could tell you were choosing your words carefully, almost like you were uncomfortable and didn't know what to say. You said you just wanted to talk to me and hear me for yourself. Your family had contacted you to let you know that I was in the hospital, and you reached out as soon as you had the number to my room. You asked me how I felt, and I said I was hurting and I wanted to be out of the hospital as soon as possible. You told me how you knew I'd push through this. You recalled to me how I struggled at birth. The umbilical cord was wrapped around my neck twice, and I had an abdominal hernia within days of my birth. You told me that all that let you know is that I came into this world fighting, and you knew that I had a purpose. I wasn't really certain which one of us you were trying to convince. Both of us, I supposed. The irony of the moment was not lost on me. I was a fighter, but there was a good chance that the violence you had inflicted on Mom contributed to my having to fight in the first place. If I was a survivor, it was that I was a survivor in spite of you, not because of you. There was no denying your genuine love and concern. This wasn't the time to air out my feelings about a night 14 years ago that I knew you already regretted. Instead, I just listened to you. I gave short answers, but this time it wasn't because I was upset with you or because I was feeling something that I wasn't saying. I was just too sick to talk much. Everything hurt. Everything took so much effort. After a few minutes, you said I sounded tired and that I needed my rest, both of which were true. You promised that we'd talk more after I was feeling better. And I remember hearing your voice crack when you said, "I love you, son." I handed the phone back to Grandma and she put the receiver back on its base. Grandma looked at me with concern written all over her face and asked if I was all right. Before I could stop them, not even realize I had any left, tears started to flow down my face. There were so many emotions running through my mind that I couldn't think straight. No, I was most certainly not all right. I looked at Grandma and Uncle Leon and then back at the receiver as if you were still lingering there with my thoughts. I took a deep breath and exclaimed the only question came to my mind. I asked the thing that I didn't want to know the answer to. Why do I have to be dying for him to want to talk to me? Before either of them could answer, I pulled the hospital blanket over my head and sobbed until my body ached. When I emerged from the covers, Grandma held me close and told me how much she loved me. Uncle Leon looked like he'd been crying too and admitted he didn't really know what to say or how to answer my question, except that he was there for me and that he loved me. For once, I didn't overthink it. I just let their words wash over me and comfort me in that moment. I didn't have the strength to twist this into self-hatred. I was just glad I wasn't alone. A few days later, a new doctor joined my team. He was younger, and he had an air of hopeful confidence. He came in and talked to us, reassuring me that he was going to do everything he could to get me healthy and out of that hospital bed. That was a breath of fresh air. The doctor looked over my chart and gave the nurse a list of labs and tests that he wanted to help diagnose what was happening to me. Initially, the nurse pushed back and protested. She said why they'd already done some of those tests, and some of them they ruled out or thought were unnecessary. They thought that my illness being the result of they had ruled out there being some sort of bacterial infection because my symptoms were so severe for so long. But this new doctor was unconvinced and would not be moved. The doctor waved her protest away and said anything was better than watching this young man wither away, and I could not possibly have agreed more. After another round of poking and prodding, the doctor came into my room looking upbeat. He explained that I had a particularly rare and potent strain of a bacterial infection called Shigella that was wreaking havoc in my digestive system. It likely came from unsanitary conditions at the fair. To this day, my mom hasn't eaten not one bite of food from any fair, especially the Georgia National. The doctor said that with the right combination of antibiotics, though, I would be feeling better in no time. And he was right. Within a day or so of starting the antibiotics, I remember waking up and feeling something that I hadn't felt in a week: hunger. When I told Mom I wanted some food, she looked so happy and relieved. The hospital food tasted like a 5-star gourmet meal to me. After a week and a half on death's doorstep, I started improving in leaps and bounds. I was eating in a day. A couple of days later, I was out of the hospital. And a few days after that, I was back to normal. I remember what Grandma told you. Things are pretty bad, but we got our miracle after all. It may have taken me being deathly ill, but at least we got to talk again. I hope that it wouldn't take anything so dire for us to connect again. Maybe this will be the one that stuck. Maybe this time, the fear of losing your son while you're not talking to him would keep you around more often. Maybe. Love, David. My therapist asked me how I feel when I read these letters. And I just have to say, I just feel bad for that poor kid. You know what I mean? I've grown and learned and come through a lot stronger than I've ever been. But I can't help but feel bad for that young man sitting in that hospital bed. I can't help but feel sympathy and just feel like, man, nobody really knew what to say to me in that situation. Everybody was feeling their own thing, and I don't think anybody would have known. But it's like, I know what I needed to hear then. And I say, and I comfort myself, with those words now. That was one of the scariest things, y'all, for real. I remember so well, like people coming to see me, and they weren't saying just in case you die, goodbye. But that's what it felt like. Um, Anytime you face your mortality, I think it's a significant thing in your life. And at such a young age, to have your life have my life sapping away so slowly and seeming like nobody could do anything. I mean, it was dark. I had all kinds of crazy dreams, and my mom was surprised that I remembered as much as I do about it. We'll still talk about it sometimes, but it was just a really interesting, harrowing experience. And then my dad called. Of all the things that are going on, like I said, everybody came to visit me, including my bus driver. You know it's bad when your bus driver comes to see you. And I had like that big card on the poster board that everybody signs, a bunch of eighth graders or whatever, saying nice things. I was like, oh my gosh, this has got to be really bad. But I remember, mom would go home sometimes and she would, just so she could just get out of the hospital, I'm sure, and get a couple hours of decent sleep in a comfortable bed. And yeah, it was Grandma and Uncle Leon sitting with me. And I've heard my grandmother talk about her interactions with my dad. And every time it seemed like Dad was terrified. He was a big dude, just big. He was like 6'2" or something like that. Big, tall, strong dude, built like an athlete because he was one. And Grandma was like 5 foot, not much, but she had a commanding presence, and he was terrified of her. And like, I remember, the phone had rung so much, people calling to check in and say hello and pray and whatever was going on. But when Dad called, her face was very stern and very serious. And, I could tell that she was in that protective mode. Even talking to you, but who's gonna not let their kid's dad talk to him when you don't know if he's gonna be alive the next day? And I'm glad I got to talk to my dad that day. Usually when I talk to him, and even times after that, once I was better, there was always this kind of like, hey, like he was always ready to just be like upbeat and let's just pick up where we left off. Like I hadn't talked to you, like it's not been a year since I talked to you last. But in that way, it was nothing like that, and I can empathize a lot with what my dad was going through. He was still, now I know, in the midst of, in the throes of alcoholism, and nothing ruins a good buzz like a death scare with one of your children, and as much as I could pick him apart and say a bunch of negative things about him, I'm really just, I get it. I get why that would be something that was so scary that would prompt him to call. And, maybe it was the sickness, maybe it was, staring down death's door, the barrel of death and not knowing if I was going to come out of this thing alive. But I didn't have all that, like, I didn't have the anger, the all of that. I was just kind of raw, and his voice was so soft. If you want to know what it sounds like, just listen to me. That's what anybody who knows us both. But he was just really like, there was a lot of long pauses between what he was saying. And if I'm honest, Dad said all the right stuff, mostly. You could tell off top that he was ready to be kind of in his feelings. Like, I had to hear through the grapevine, what happened? Why didn't y'all let me know? He sort of alluded to that, but immediately he was like, how are you? What are you feeling? And he was doing his best to encourage me. And I really think that, I don't know that he could have said, too much else to be more helpful than he was being. I think at a different time in my life, I'd be like, well, that's what it took for you to reach out and have some kind of attitude about it. I don't really have any of that right now. None of us really know how to handle those kind of situations. None of us are going to be perfect in any of them. And I don't have a stone to throw at my dad about the fact that, that's the thing that made him call. I wish that he had kept calling, honestly. but he was fighting his own battles that he was in that he was keeping from me and most of the people who he loved. So, it's not like he was he was going to be a positive force for himself or for me at the time. But all in all, his phone call is the one that I remember above everybody else's. And I was trying real hard to just be grateful, just kind of be in the moment about it, not to second guess or not to make it a big deal. But, hanging up the phone, I couldn't help, y'all. I just couldn't help it. I was like, and I remember asking, just like, why do I got to be dying for him to want to talk to me? I remember saying it. It felt loud to me. I don't know if it was actually loud because I didn't have, anything but IV fluids. But like for me, it felt like I was screaming at the sun, It felt like this emotional outpouring. It probably came across like a strained whisper. But I remember just like putting that hospital blanket over my head and just sobbing. And I don't know, the cool thing for me, is that I remember my grandma and my Uncle Leon being there when I put that blanket over my head and being there when I took it off. And they didn't say much. And I think that was really, really good. I think that was one of the best things they could do, was just to sit with me. One of the reflections that I have on, on times when stuff has gone really wrong, when I think about, in the Bible, in Job, when he loses everything in the first two chapters of Job, and in the beginning of chapter 3, his 3 friends show up, and for a week, they just sat with him. Nobody said anything. They were just there. And then they started talking and things went off the rail real quick. But what I love about my mom and my grandma and my Uncle Leon was that when faced with an impossible situation that they didn't know, honestly, how it was going to resolve, my grandma's faith, man, that lady was a pillar in our community. She was a warrior in prayer. And she was wholly convinced that everything was going to be all right. And she didn't have any problem letting me know. She would tell me her own story of overcoming melanoma cancer. And if you know my grandmother, you've heard the story. She would tell me, David, I've been on death's door and I'm still here. The doctor told me that when you hear the word melanoma, it's already too late. And she's told me that story so many times. I sold everything I owned, David. And I went back to the doctor the next week and there was no cancer. And he couldn't make heads. And he was confused. The doctor was. And my grandma probably told me that thing 1,000,000 times while I was in the hospital. But what I remember the most about her, in that time was just that she was there. And that she was loving, and that she was just, and in the aftermath of my dad's phone call, and even, like I said, even he said all the right things. She was just there. My mom would just sit there and hold my hand and pray with me, and we would watch whatever was on TV. I would pass out or she would fall asleep holding my hand. It's enough to just, sometimes the best ability is availability. And you don't know how much it can mean to someone you love who's going through something you don't understand, for you to just be there with them. I think the ministry of presence was made so apparent to me in the times when I was fighting for my life in that hospital bed at Houston Medical Center. Man, I don't know if I was hopeful by the end of it. I think so. I don't think Grandma would let me, just resign to say this is just how I go. And I know there's a lot of people who pray and their prayers don't get answered. People are dying every day that ain't never died before. Hey, Russell, good to see you, brother. Love you, man. It's real hard to face loss, and all of us are going to go that way someday until the Lord returns. But I'm just grateful, in this experience. And as I wrote this, I realized that it was a long time before I got to my dad, and the letter really wasn't about him, even though it's addressed to him. Um, that there was so much support and love around me. You know what I wish? If I had a time machine, if I could reach back, I'm glad I don't. It's like the butterfly effect. I'll change one thing, and then, but if I had the opportunity, I would have told 13-year-old David in that hospital bed, hey, look around at everybody you have and stop trying to think about that one person who's not there all the time. Don't think about my biological father in there. Look at all the other love that's around you. And I'm gonna be honest, I missed that message. I didn't see it then. I see it now, though. I really do. So what do I have in terms of reflection? If you guys have questions or comments, stuff you'd like me to address, I will. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and wind down. Every opportunity is an opportunity for connection. And I think this was as good an opportunity as any for my dad and me to have a lasting connection. It ended up turning out that the next time we would be talking was another tragedy. We'll get to that in a week or so. But, maybe we'll start with, to those of you who are like my dad, who are fighting your own battles, you're fighting your inner demons, you're dealing with addiction, or you're feeling the shame of maybe not having been there. One thing that I'm really glad about is that my dad overcame that and called me. Neither of us knew if that was going to be the last time we ever talked. And if it was, to have the peace in knowing that he had called me and told me that he loved me, and said the right things in those moments. I know that there was probably some peace. I'm sure he hung up that phone crying like I did for different reasons. But I just encourage you, if you find yourself at one of those crossroad moments, it's always a good time to adjust course, to repent, and to do something better. And I have a lot of love and respect for my dad for overcoming all that difficulty and calling me to make that conversation happen. I'm glad also, as I think about the people who are around me, I'm grateful that my grandmother, knowing how much dad had put our family through, was still willing to hand me the phone. If y'all didn't get a chance to meet Maddie Cornelius, you really missed out. And if you know her, you know how much she is missed in this world. I can't wait to see her again. She was a woman of faith and determination. She was brilliant. She was loving. She was not somebody you wanted on your bad side. You didn't want to be on her bad side, not at all. And mom was strong, but she was also exhausted. And I'm so glad that when dad called, it was grandma who picked up the phone. She made me feel so safe in that moment with just a look in my eyes. I knew she was there. And just like I said earlier, just being present meant so much. And the fact that she was willing to hand me the phone let me know that I could forgive, that I could go past whatever it was that was making me hesitant to talk and give it a shot. And I'm so glad I did. So glad that I did. Even though I lived through it and we had other opportunities and stuff went wrong before it went right and ended up wrong. Yeah. I'm still grateful. Still grateful for her and that example of love and forgiveness that she showed to me, that she displayed to me that day. And then last, if you are someone like me who has had this kind of pervasive feeling of inadequacy, insecurity, take every opportunity as an opportunity to change course on that. Be kind to yourself and don't spend the time that I spent most of my life um, looking for somebody to come and complete you. You know, for me, it wasn't about a romantic relationship so much as it was I was looking for that paternal relationship. I needed a dad so I could be a man, like the preacher would say. Only a man can turn a boy into a man. There's some stuff only a man can teach you. And I believe that to my core in such a way that it made it so unhealthy, the fixation that I had over it. And I just want to tell you, I am free from that. It's taken 42 years, but I'm free from that. And I pray that if you're listening and you heard those kind of things, or you maybe felt that there was something defective or missing in you, that the thing that you think, you know, some man or some woman can give you is only going to come from God anyway. I've got my heavenly Father who can do for me what no earthly father ever could, biological or otherwise. And I would be spending so much time looking for dad to come in and wave the magic wand. But when I was literally fighting for my life, dad's phone call wasn't the thing that saved me. You know, and every time I look for it to be, now I look back and I see that the real issue was me, that I had personalized stuff that wasn't personal. And I had been looking to fill a God-shaped hole with the dad peg, with the dad block that was never going to do it. And I have a whole lot of peace now in knowing that even though I don't have, and I'll never have in this life, that father-son relationship with Ed Collins, I have my heavenly Father who knows me, who shaped me in my mother's womb before I was even here, that he's been there for me, with me, in me. And I am so, so grateful to have that relationship. And like I said, learn from me that it's always a good time to turn to God and to bring your worst pain, the most extreme thing you have. God can handle it in a way that no man can. Jesus said it in Matthew 11:28, "Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy burden, and I'll give you rest." He said that if you give me your burdens, you'll find rest for your souls. And I've been a tired soul before, but I have found peace, not because my situation changed, not because my dad got it together, not because the next time we talked, everything was ice cream. It wasn't. And it's not, and there's no magic wand to make all my problems go away now. But I got a lot more peace about it than I used to have. Even as I'm looking through these letters, y'all, I don't feel the same way I did when I was writing them. I'm going to talk about that in the next one. We're going to take a break from reading the letters, and I'm just going to kind of share my heart about this journey, you know, now that we're about a little ways into this, just kind of what I'm feeling, what I've learned about myself, and hopefully interact with some of you about it. I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I lived, that I survived, that I'm still here, that I can still tell my story. And I hope that I can help somebody like me to avoid some of these pitfalls and really be able to look at it and enjoy life, be able to see the love that's around them, and be able to experience it in a way that is untainted by self-hatred and looking around for some human's validation when I just missed out that God was there for me the whole time. So stay tuned. I'll share a little bit more kind of on that topic in the next week or two. If you would like to be on here and talk about your own story, your own struggles and how you've overcome them, and share some observations you'd like to share with a young you, then the Broken for This channel is where you ought to be. Just shoot me an email, brokenforthis@gmail.com. Or if you know how to get in touch with me, holler at me, leave it in the comments. Let's talk. Let's give you a forum. If it's a good, healthy idea, if you do it, let's talk about it so that you can help somebody like you, to show that you're not broken, that you're equipped, that you're prepared, that you haven't been chiseled away like, that you've been carved like a key. Maybe there's a heart that you can unlock. And I want to help you to do that. So thank y'all so much. Again, keep Ashley in your prayers as she recovers. And we look forward to seeing you in a future episode of the Broken for This podcast. You'll find us on Facebook, YouTube, and on Spotify. We're so just look for Broken, the number 4, this, all one word, and you'll find us there. Thank you guys for listening and for your comments and the love. And I look forward to talking with you another time. And as I'm signing off, just remember I love you and there's nothing you can do about it. Take care of yourselves and each other.